right, welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on this 26th day of July 2022, 13 days to the general election, and about should be 11 now to the end of the official campaign season. So the various campaigns will be making sure that in the remaining days they're able to do as much as they can to convince Kenyans. And of course, today is the day that the presidential debate is expected to happen. By the plan of the organizers, William Ruto should debate Raila Odinga as one Professor George Luchiro Wajakoya debates David More Wahiga. We'll wait to see whether that happens, having received communication from two of the candidates, Raila Odinga and Wajakoya, that they are not intending to attend. For Wajakoya says that conditions have to be met, that he has to be part of the full debate, inclusive of all the four candidates against the plan by the organizers. I'm in studio with Steve Ogolla, who is an advocate of the High Court. Good morning. And you've been lost. I haven't seen you in a long time.
No, I'm around.
These days you don't talk to me, which is all fine. Then there's Steve Ogolla, advocate also of the High Court, and the Secretary General of ODM.
I've given him my job.
Oh, I meant it. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, we're still expecting another advocate of the High Court. That is Oliver Kipchumba. He should be here to continue this conversation. But before we do so, on the front pages of the two dailies, there are some interesting stories. On the front page of the Daily Nation is the big standoff. Will Raila show up? There's still the chance that, like Dr. Ruto before him, Mr. Odinga will ignore bad advice and agree to take part. If so, the stage could be set for a riveting duel between a younger and nimbler master of the debate platform and an older opponent with a stellar record in the quest for human rights democracy. But they say something else. If Azimio la Umoja candidate Raila Odinga makes good his threat to skip the presidential debate tonight, he will be forced to counter claims that he chickened out at the prospect of going head-to-head against Kenya Kwanza's William Ruto, who skipped the 2017 debate, but now says Odinga pulled out to avoid a resounding humiliation. Of course, they're attributing those remarks to William Ruto. But there's also another important story that is on the front page of the Standard. IEBC defense trio as Central Farm goes quiet. Chebukati claims a deal with Smartmatic and its local agent Seamless Limited is above board, but the mother company is yet to come clean on the matter despite assurances. And I would want us to begin from there because there's a lengthy statement that you also see on page 5 of the Standard that gives details of what IEBC is saying is an update to the country as far as the preparations for the elections and the deployment of the election technology, of course, defending the tender, the agreement between themselves and Smartmatic International Holdings, the work that has been done, and saying that the stickers that were nabbed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport are non-strategic materials, and they are just meant to label the Kimskits to know where each gadget will be deployed to. And Wakili, both of you are Wakili, so Wakili, SG. Wakili Ogolla, what is your take on what's going on at a time that it's too close to the election? I'm not sure we can afford entertaining such a suspicion and mistrust so close to the election.
Well, I think the more disappointing aspect of this conversation is that DCI appears to have sensationalized what appeared to be genuine concerns around the handling of election materials. Yes, it is a statutory duty to investigate all instances where an offense may be seen to have been disclosed. But the manner in which they went about the investigation and the sensationalization of their report does not work to boost public confidence in terms of preparation of the election. IEBC said, and there's really no reason to doubt that at this stage, there is a contract with a company that is supposed to provide election-related materials. If you have a contract with a company supplying election materials, IEBC's obligation begins from the time of delivery. How that contractor delivers the materials to IEBC, really, that is not IEBC's core business until the election material is within IEBC's custody. Because you see, this material, some of them like these stickers that are non-core material, they are being printed from abroad. IEBC is not there to oversight the printing. There's a contract that requires Smartmatic company to deliver them to Nairobi. If there was something that DCI sensed that was a bit irregular
Right.
in the manner in which the election materials arrived in Kenya, I think what they ought to have done, and they did part of that, is to confer with IBC, find out, verify whether this material are genuinely IBC's or not, and then release them to IBC. But if you look at the 11-page statement issued by the DCI, from page 1 to page 4, it's a factual report. Someone came in, we scanned his bag, we detected he could be carrying something else, we searched the bag, and we discovered. But then from page 6 to page 11, they're providing an analysis. I think DCI should not have provided an analysis, because then when you're providing an analysis, what you think happened, you're preferring an opinion.
Right.
When you're preferring an opinion, you put yourself in an embarrassing position, because somebody could come and give you a contradicting opinion. They should have presented the factual matrix as they were, and then left the rest. Said, we intercepted a bag. We called IBC, we confirmed this is election material, they're genuine, and we released it. The rest you can pick up with IBC concerning the security of this election material. We do not need to deepen the crisis of public confidence on IBC. 14 days the ballot. I have not seen anything which can make me, as an observer of this election preparation, I haven't seen anything which can make me anxious that IBC is not operating above board. Everything IBC has done, including this crisis, I think it has handled it well.
Okay.
DCI should tell us if probably they're trying to drive a narrative that IBC is not ready to handle the election, and to whose benefit they'll be doing that. Because if they don't clarify that, then the natural assumption is they obviously went beyond their mandate, which is to investigate and then to report, and not to provide analysis which can then threaten public confidence on the commission.
Okay. SG Sifuna, what's your take on the conversation going on in this country at this time?
I think, first of all, my brother should be a bit more honest in his evaluation of events. That, in fact, it was the IEBC who told us that the people that the police picked up were actually IEBC officials. It is the commission that came out with a statement in the middle of the night, crying foul, that the police is harassing and intimidating and arresting electoral officials. In fact, Chebukati in his statement said these were IEBC officials. Number two, they told us that part of the material that had been confiscated was critical to the election. It was Chebukati himself who said these things. It was not DCI. So for them to put out this statement and tell us that this, labeling stickers are non-strategic electoral material that can just be casually packaged in, personal luggage by people who are not even employees of the commission, people who are not employees of Smartmatic. They are not employees of Smartmatic as it has been established by the commission, by the DCI. And there was a third thing, there was a direct accusation on the police that they were hindering or hampering the operations of the commissions or the preparations for elections. So I don't think it was wrong for the DCI to be able to put these things in perspective, to explain clearly that, in fact, they were just doing their job.
Right.
In fact, if we didn't have the police in this country, vigilant police officers at the airports, at the DCI who are able to unearth these things, we would never know, because Chebukati has proved himself somebody who is averse to telling Kenyans the truth. Even today, when they tell us this, Sam, the process of registration of the KIEMS kits is the most critical. People think that ballots are stolen at the point of opening of polling stations, that ballots are stuffed in boxes.
Right.
We are way past stuffing ballots in boxes. The registration of kits is the most critical thing, because you remember, only the results in those kits can be said to be, proper results of an election. If you remember, in 2017, there was a discussion about KIEMS kits that were not actually registered to any polling station. Do you remember that conversation? So
I remember at the Supreme Court them saying that there's some results that were transmitted not from...
Absolutely. That's what I'm telling you. The process of identification of each individual kit, the labeling of that kit, the results transmission from that kit, it is absolutely critical, and that is where the mischief is. So you cannot come and tell us that these stickers are non-strategic election materials. Number two, they told us that all printing of election material is being done by a Greek firm. They didn't tell us that Smartmatic is also the entity responsible for printing of these stickers. So what we want to see, Sam, we are not out to demonize the commission or to hamper their operations or to do anything.
Okay.
We want Chebukati to realize the gravity of the role that he has been given. He is the commission chair. We cannot have a situation where institutions such as the DCI are raising critical questions to Chebukati, but the person answering is William Ruto in public rallies. Is William Ruto the chairperson of the commission? How can he be the person in more possession of more knowledge about the operations of the commission than Chebukati himself? Even this statement that he's putting, this is a very weak statement, given the gravity of the accusations that have been leveled against the commission. He needs to tell us.
What's the weak point?
This to tell us that stickers are strategic election material and that therefore whatever has happened or whatever I have laid the basis for why I think stickers are critical electoral material.
No, fine, okay, we'll debate about that, because I think a ballot paper is more strategic than a sticker.
That is where you go wrong, Sam.
No, just hold on. I have
told you that in this day and age, it is not ballot stuffing that that is not where the election is stolen. It is the identification and registration of the kits.
Okay, I hear you, and I'm not basing what I'm saying on opinion. It's what IEBC describes as strategic materials. Oliver Kipchumba is an advocate of the High Court and joins us on this panel. So what's your take about this conversation? There has been accusation that William Ruto is more angry than the commission and therefore is coming out to defend the commission in this conversation. What's your take?
Thank you, Sam, and sorry for coming in late. I think there has been a lot of missteps and miscalculation in the whole thing, beginning with because DCI and IEBC, for example, they are both government institutions, and there must be a way of how government institutions communicate to each other. It cannot be through their Twitter pages or their official whatever. That is the first thing. Secondly, I think there was a mishandling of the whole matter from both the side of the DCI and the IEBC, because when we are at this stage and all you do is to just be writing letters back and forth, you do not help Kenyans in building the confidence we deserve for this election. Secondly, I ran away from this thing of either it's strategic or non-strategic. Confidence on a system is perceptive, Sam Kituku. You cannot, it is not qualitative that you can say it is this or that. So at the end of the day, the perception you create about something makes it either important or not. So when we come and discuss that whether a barcode reader is strategic or not, that is not the debate. We are losing the debate. The debate is, did these people who brought these things, were they known to IEBC? The answer from IEBC is yes. Number two, why didn't we list down all the contractors of this election so that we know the servicing and the commissioning and the testing of the technologies by Smartmatic, the whatever, and then we know also who has been subcontracted by the main contractors, because I think that is where we lost the ball. Now we are seeing new names, Seamless, Limited, Smartmatic, and all this, but if it had been done at the onset that we know these are the people who have been contracted, this is their scope of duty, from there it will have been easier. But again, DCI do not make anything better by demonizing IEBC or by making it, characterizing IEBC in a manner that they are likely to question their credibility. We lose the whole thing, because if we question the credibility of IEBC without offering solution at this hour, we are not building the confidence of Kenyans. And we know where the problems start. The problems start when we have confidence deficit in some of these institutions. So it is incumbent between both Chebukati and DCI Kinoti to get their acts together. And then we must also run away from the thinking that IEBC is perfect or DCI is, because IEBC has a role under Article 81 all the way to 89. Their constitutional mandate has been spelled out in each and every duty they have been given. And DCI also has their role to investigate. But again, we need to ask ourselves, and my question has been, where is Mutiambai in all this? Even as Sifuna asked about whether William Ruto speaks for IEBC or whatever, where is Mutiambai, the boss of Kinoti? Because constitutionally, the person who should be telling us these things is not Kinoti, is Mutiambai's boss. Because when it comes to institutional communication, the institution we know constitutionally is the Inspector General.
So Wakili Ogolla, if at all DCI is executing its mandate, I mean, how differently should it have handled this situation if it gets to a point that it's becoming suspicious?
Allow me, Sam, to first of all clarify some things that could be very important to our viewers, because we're talking about the integrity of the electoral process. Yeah, if you want to know whether this is really a strategic or a non-strategic election material, you just have to locate the activities at the polling station. Each polling station, and I think we've been told they have about 46,229 polling stations. In each and every polling station, you expect to find a copy of the electronic register for that polling station. There's going to have to be a copy of the electronic register with not more than 700 names in that polling station. There will be a device to identify your name on that electronic register. You can see what is strategic there. If a sticker says this Kim's kit is supposed to go to, let's say, Nairobi West, or maybe Langata Road Primary, and it has gone somewhere, it means if the voters in Langata Road Primary, when they go there on election day, they will not find their names on that Kim's kit. You get? Because you can only find your name in a register that is available in the polling station. So, you know, concerns notwithstanding, bottom line is this. In the polling station, if a sticker was marked, let's say, Karen C Primary School, and it's the sticker Karen C Primary School is in Langata Road Primary School polling station. What matters most at that point is if the sticker does not correspond with the electronic voter register, what matters most is that the electronic register in that polling station, does it contain the names of voters who will be presenting themselves there? I vote at Kewi in South Sea. I expect that when I go to Kenya Water Institute in South Sea, I expect to find my name in the electronic register in Kewi. It does not matter that the Kim's kit there is labeled Langata Road. The concerns notwithstanding, you get. What I'm saying is we're not going to permit what looks like false steps which can erode public confidence. And I agree in terms of holding IBC to account, but we must not sensationalize. The problem with sensationalization, Sam, is that it takes away legitimate concerns. And you've asked a very pertinent question. What should DCI have done in the circumstance? And I've already rendered myself on that matter. And I've said, if there is reason to suspect that someone is carrying an authorized or undeclared material, be they election or otherwise, DCI has a statutory obligation to intercept, search, and even detain someone, even arraign them in court. They did the right thing in terms of intercepting and searching. Upon establishing that IBC is aware that this election material was actually coming in, then it does not matter that the person bringing it in had not received a letter of invitation from IBC. Because then you're going to the details. And I can tell you, from a legal perspective, very neutral, objective legal advice. If you have a contract with someone, it is upon the duty of that company, Smartmatic company, to deliver the election material to your doorstep. Then you start being accountable for material that is within your possession. For instance, if somebody had made stickers on River Road, those stickers would not, IBC would not be responsible for stickers made on River Road or excess stickers that may have been lost at the airport. The question that IBC ought to answer is this: do you have in your possession all the election material to be deployed in this election? If somebody else may have made duplicate or there was some misunderstanding in any process, there will always be some missteps here and there. If there's a misstep that happens, you tell IBC, take it as a learning point, close any gaps. But what I disagree with very strongly is this: DCI is not permitted by law to provide what looks like an alternative analysis which can be challenged by another person looking at the same set of facts, which is what they did.
That's fine, Wakili. But you said that if it was River Road, there would be a problem. When it's some foreigners at the JKIA, you find no problem.
What is the principle?
I mean, how should IEBC handle this process?
I think
knowing-
first, the question should be, why does IEBC travel to the printers if their obligations start at the point of receipt of materials? Why do you send observers to observe the printing process? Why is Chebukati at the airport to receive printed ballots?
Okay, so
if at the end of the day he should just sit in his office and be brought material.
SG, let me rephrase it for Wakili here. So, I mean, how should IEBC handle all this matter? Because we know we in this country and there's a lot of political suspicion. How should you deal with it?
What is you'd have to ask yourself, what is the principle? If the principle is IEBC has contracted a company to provide key election materials, at what point does IEBC have access to those key election material? If IEBC decides to go over and above, which is what I think Kenyans are saying, yeah, there is no legal obligation on IEBC to, let's say, supervise to track it from the printer, wherever they are being printed, to its warehouse. If it does so to boost public confidence. It does so just to track. You see, you have to look at the contract, ask yourself, what is the binding core obligation on the part of the contractor, and what is the corresponding obligation on the part of the IEBC, and then you have to disclose within this contract. I think clause 1, 2, 3 has been violated, and in this manner, you get. And you have to ask yourself, even if violation or infraction of the contractual terms did happen, is it material or not? If it is not material, you have to ask yourself, at what point do we rest that conversation while taking learning lessons? You get? The point I'm making is this. If you work from the position that IEBC is not set to deliver free, fair, and credible election, then everything will be under the microscope and you'll be magnifying any alleged infraction on contractual terms or on the law. At the end of the day, if you're looking for mistakes in election management whatsoever, you will find many.
Okay.
Can I just say this? You see, the law requires IEBC to ensure the integrity of the election. If they give you the job of ensuring nothing in this studio is stolen when you leave, they don't have to tell you that you have to lock the windows and doors when you leave. That is your job, you know? So the integrity of the election requires that you ensure the integrity of the electoral materials and everything is there. How difficult would it have been, my brother, for, you said you don't want to see these institutions talking to each other on Twitter and on social media or the mainstream media. How difficult would it have been, just like they do with other material, to notify the security services that there's, in fact, unexpected consignment of stickers arriving at JKIA and it is being carried by so-and-so, so that it doesn't appear like you're sneaking material into the country that is critical to election. Number two, what Sam is trying to say here is that there is a context, because elections in this country have been problematic, and we are all aware about the problems we've been through since the days of Mlolongo to today. We did not just wake up and find ourselves suspicious of electoral commissions or commissioners or people who actually, run elections in this country. We have to contextualize it in the context of Kenyan experience. That in fact, every single thing that you do must be deliberate to build confidence in the public and in the people, stakeholders in elections, that you actually know what you're doing. So for you not to notify, and not for you to have officers from IEBC present to actually confirm these things when they arrive, the way that you do with other things, it is what raises that suspicion. We are not interested in crippling the operations of the electoral body. We want this election to come and go some. We are not interested in a postponement. But what we are saying is that we must get it the first time. You, Wakili, know what would happen. Especially given the guardrails that were spelled out by the Supreme Court in 2017, it is now very easy to have an election annulled if you don't do it just in accordance with the law. So all we are doing is to prevent an eventuality.
SG, when you look at, because I mean there are different sides to this story. When you look at the performance of the DCI, are you satisfied that he did what he did and the statements that he issued were in the best interest of this country?
I think so. I don't see anything...
including the casting of aspersions that
no, you must contextualize it, because remember, this was precipitated by a statement from IEBC themselves. They made certain allegations that were found to be factually incorrect. They have denied they alleged that these were officials of IEBC. They then claimed they were the contractors bringing in material properly, that they had notified the police. The police have debunked all those things. So it was the initial intention of IEBC to actually cry wolf when there was no wolf, to make it appear like they are being molested by these security agencies, where there are legitimate questions that needed to be answered. In fact, my only problem with the statement from DCI is that it appears they have not brought in Chebukati to answer those questions. I personally don't believe that he should be answering, these questions should be posed to him through the letter or the statement that was put out. Call him in, because I don't think that the commission chair is above the law. He should be able to come and answer these questions to the DCI, so that the DCI can tie all the loose ends. There are names of people that are mentioned there, severally. We don't know who those people are. I think the expectation from a DCI is that we know these people and that we know what they are up to. I think a greater explanation needs to be given. This statement by Chebukati is not enough. Let him go to DCI and answer those questions that were raised in those questions.
Wakili Kipchumba, of course, I mean, these are, like you said, state institutions that have specific mandates to execute. But how do we get out of this? Because 13 days is such a short time. How do we get out of this and have total confidence?
I think there is something also we need to be honest as Kenyans as we undertake this discussion. Number one, there is no new set of rules that IEBC are held to. And then there are for other institutions. Because when we talk about a simple tendering process, it should be uniform across board. If today the military is acquiring guns, we do not expect somebody to call all of us to go to the airport to see guns being received. All we care are the guns within the DOD or whatever they are supposed to be in. So that is the first thing. Number two, I have an issue with how DCI communicates, whatever it communicates to the public. It is communicated with a certain tone of trying to achieve some other hidden agenda. Because if you are communicating some in a neutral tone, we know how that should be. But at times, it communicates in a manner likely to suggest that there is something he's trying to achieve. And most of the times, what the DCI communicates in public parlance has always been either propaganda or something. Because yesterday, it was confirmed, and it was in most of the media houses, that Gustavo is an employee of Smartmatic. How easy was it for them to confirm? Number two, they wrote something like, these people are in the country with expired passports. We later learned that there was an extension of passports for people from that part of the world. So at the end of the day, why do we want to kill the credibility of IEBC with something that we could just have logged into a computer, checked with Googling? Why?
Okay.
But how do we get out of this? It's very simple. I think Chebukati has done a whole pager trying to explain something.
Are you satisfied?
He has not read it.
I have read the statement. I have read the statement. I read it, I think, 4 hours ago. What I want us to understand, or what I want to understand from the whole thing, is the concern being raised by DCI should also be answered, because at the end of the day, DCI have greater capacity to investigate more than IEBC. IEBC have answers for the question DCI is asking for. So at the end of the day, we need just him to detail for us that this contract was given to so and so. This has been subcontracted, because it is a legal procedure, or it is allowed that if you are a foreign company, you must have a local company here, because how you can come from there and just start working here? You need somebody at this other end. So if the company the Smartmatic chose is the seamless one or something, we need to be told so that we are not cropping in the dark. And two, what we need to understand is that IEBC is not AFC. IEBC is not NCPB. IEBC is not KenGen. We are dealing about an electoral process which has always divided the nation. So when we talk about even the tenders belonging to IEBC, we need to be crystal clear that this is about an election. Anything, we cannot say this will be non-strategic, but there is also the question that if these stickers were printed in Mombasa Road, for example, will we need to declare them to DCI? That is the question. If, for example, they were to be printed in Mombasa Road, nobody will be asked. So we need also to check the yardstick the DCI is questioning IEBC. Okay. Is it a fair question they are posing?
By the way, what was the purpose of those plain stickers? Are these mathematic people coming with a printer? Will they run the? Will they?
I don't think any of us here knows.
I think
that.
You would be surprised. Maybe you know. Yes.
But I think there's something we can agree on. Yeah?
Right.
The only time DCI is allowed in law to prefer an opinion is when they want to make a recommendation on the decision to charge. Mm-hmm. Look at the DCI statement. I don't know what that statement discloses. It discloses a disturbing pattern of institutional arrogance. DCI is fond of retorting. I mean, I mean, they're doing a good job always, but in their mandate, mm-hmm. they have a pattern of exaggerating the outcomes of their findings. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have said, if you're investigating a factual matrix, mm-hmm. you say sequentially. Some persons arrived. It's a fact. We searched their bags. It's a fact. We discovered they were carrying election materials. That's a fact. We called IEBC. That's a fact. IEBC alerted us that we are aware that they're coming in. That's a fact. Whether IEBC ought to have alerted DCI in advance or not, mm-hmm. based on prior experience, that is a matter of discretion. It's a matter of discretion. Okay. It is now DCI throwing tantrums on a position they can't have the last word on, because IEBC is supposed to have the last word. If they think they need security escort to move those stickers from JKI to a warehouse, they will do so. If they think it is the work of the contractor to deliver those stickers here in Nairobi and then to IEBC warehouse, you must permit them the leverage or the liberty to exercise that discretion. Okay. If you are going to make an analysis, because he questioned Chebukati's seriousness, that statement questions Chebukati's seriousness.
Everyone is questioning
now.
Seriousness.
The only time DCI should do that is when they are supposed to end with a recommendation in the circumstances investigations disclose an offense that has been committed. If you remove the name of DCI from that letter, and you remove the name of DCI Kinoti down there as someone who has signed it off, it would look like a political statement. The question that Kenyans must ask as well is this. Mm-hmm. In as much as we hold IEBC to account, by the way, I've never been persuaded that IEBC should be shielded from scrutiny. IEBC by law, and SG got it very well, election in this country are highly sensitive, and election is about perception. If there is even the slightest perception that IEBC is not doing things the right way, IEBC must communicate with clarity. All right. And correct all those questions in the affirmative. But we cannot also sit somewhere digging that and trying to, as if you are trying to find out, if you don't get IEBC on this matter, well, they are lucky. Can we try another matter? Is there a genuine concern in the law? Happening? I think based on the statement, I would prefer an opinion that DCI is pursuing a collateral agenda.
To whose advantage?
There is something, Sam.
There is something to whose advantage?
You know, they say, you know, we say in law, no one knows the mind of God, the mind of man, except the Lord himself. I cannot tell the degree of precision that DCI has done this the advantage of Kenya Kwanza or maybe Azimio. But what I can say, based on the fact, if you're going to provide an analysis, that analysis, all lawyers will agree, and these are lawyers, mm-hmm. it should terminate with the recommendation. Okay.
Yeah, but the legal question, just this one. Mm-hmm. There is a rule called the but-for rule. But for the statement by Chebukati at midnight, do you really think we would have had this long statement by the DCI? Why don't you address the sensationalism in his initial letter, that it is the one that has precipitated this response, because there was a direct attack on the work of the DCI? You know, this is what precipitated the letter. They also have to explain themselves and exonerate themselves in the eyes of the public.
Okay, which is rather unfortunate, because I think they are paid by the taxpayers to do a certain job, which they should be doing. Anyway, we take a short break here. When we come back, we'll be talking about the presidential debates, or the debate that is, no, actually debates that are expected this evening. Who is attending, who is not, and what should be the concerns of Kenyans as we approach that hour after the break.
Collect fare kwa board.